What's going on, guys? Back again with another instructional video. Today we're going to be going over all the knots that you need to know to be successful on the water fishing. Now, of course, there's a trillion different knots that you can use on the water, and everyone has their own personal preference. But these are the knots that I like to tie, that I've had success with. And they're not the most complex knots, but some of them are some of the most common knots that everybody uses for the most part, and some may not be. So we're gonna go over some different knots, and I'm gonna show y'all first on these two little ropes here so you can see it nice and easy, and then we might tie them with actual fluorocarbon and braid. We're gonna go over a couple leader knots, a couple knots to a hook, and just kind of go over what I like to use and what I've had success with. So starting off, we're gonna go over the first knot that I learned how to tie. We're going to use this first, and that would be the improved clinch knot. This is a super simple knot to tie for fluorocarbon or braided line to a hook. This is going to be our hook eye. This is going to represent our hook eye. This is going to stand in for that little loop right there that you tie your line to. So that's what this is right here. But the first thing you're going to do is take your line and put it through the hook eye. Okay. And now what I do is, once you got your line through your hook eye, you're going to spin it 7 to 8 times. If you're using really heavy lines, 6 will work fine. I'm not going to spin it 8 times with this because it's really heavy stuff, and it's just for example. But then you're going to take the tag in your line and run it through this little loop you made down here at the bottom. And then that new loop you have right there, you're going to run it through. And when you tighten it down correctly, obviously you want to wet it with real line, and it's not gonna form right here because this is so wide, but whenever you tie it correctly, it'll be like little stacks of line on the hook. So that would be the improved clinch knot. Now we're gonna try it with actual fluorocarbon. I'm not so sure how exactly this is gonna turn out, how well you're gonna be able to see this, but we're gonna give it a shot anyway. Same thing, run your hook, run the line through the hook, spin it 8 times, run it to that loop at the bottom, and then run it back to that loop you just made. Having trouble here, of course, whenever I'm trying to show y'all something. And then I kind of like to hold it until it forms, that way nothing comes out. So right now you got your knot, and of course it's not in position yet, but you obviously want to wet it. Anytime you're using fluorocarbon, you don't want to burn your line. So you're going to wet it, slide it down, and you don't have to pull on it crazy hard. You're going to burn your line if you do that. You're going to, if you see people like just pulling on their knot, you're just making it weaker. Just snug it down, maybe pull on the tag in a little bit to make sure it's nice and tight. I don't know how well we're going to be able to make this out on the camera, but when you tie it correctly, all your line should stack up on little stacks, little loops. And of course, trim your tag in, and now you have an improved clinch knot. That is the knot that I tie for any time I'm tying directly to a lure and I do not want a loop knot, which will bring us to our next knot, which is a loop knot. So our second knot is going to be a loop knot. I tie a very simple loop knot. I have people all the time out traveling, fishing tournaments that say, my loop knot, there's no way it'll hold. There's no way. There's not enough steps. There's no way it could work. It's too simple. Well, I cannot tell you how many fish I have caught on this loop knot. I mean, it's probably in the thousands of the amount of just different fish I've caught, whether it's jacks and bonita, stuff that pulls super hard, big bull reds that'll really test the limit of your line. So if it can survive a 10, 15 pound bonita, I know my loop knot can survive a trout or a redfish. And all you're going to do is make a loop in your line. Just cross your line over, make a loop, run it the tag in through that loop. So now you have one of these guys in your line. Super simple. Alright, now you got one of these little guys in your line. You got your tag in right here, your main line here. This is your line coming from your rod. All of this over here. You got your loop and you got your tag in. Now all you're going to do is run that loop or the tag in through the eye of your hook, and you're going to now run your tag in back through the loop that you have in your line. Alright, now at this point you can adjust where you want your knot to be, how big you want your loop. If you want a big loop, you can pull it, make a big loop. If you want a small loop that's not really a big old loop, you can slide it down here. And just to finish this knot off, you're just going to do a quick overhand knot. So all you're going to do is this right here. You got your knot, you got your loop, you got your main line, your tag in. You're just going to take that tag in and run it through a little overhand knot, and now it's secure. Okay, you want to pull on this end. You want to pull on your main line. If you pull real hard on this, it'll slide your loop, and so it may like get it to roll up, and that's not what you want. So if you pull on this, maybe give this a quick little tug just to make sure it's nice and secure, and you have a really strong loop knot. And like I said, I'm pulling on that pretty hard. When I first learned how to tie that loop knot, I was kind of skeptical myself because I was like, how well could that actually hold? It's so simple. There's only 3 real steps to it. There's no way that could hold up to big fish. Maybe it's for like people who catch brim or something. But I've actually caught, like I said, some really strong fish on that before. Now to go over that with the fluorocarbon, and this is the knot I tie anytime you're tying a bait that you want extra movement in it. So look at me, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So same thing, you just want to make that little loop in your line. So here you go. You got that little loop in your line. Here's your tag in. You want to run that tag in through the eye of your hook, back through that loop you got in your line, and now is when you can slide it. You can make it smaller loop, bigger loop. So how about that? We'll just put it right there, and then all you're gonna do to secure it in place is do 1 overhand knot in your line. Pull it tight. Like I said, don't pull on this tag in real hard because it'll move your knot. But when you get it where you want it, just pull on your main line, get it secured down, and now you have a loop knot. A loop knot's really helpful whenever you have a bait that you want more action with. Like this spoon, I like it because I want it to be able to flutter. I want more action out of it. A lot of people ask, why do I not use a swivel on a spoon like this? And it's because, for the most part, if you have a good loop knot that gives it action, it will kind of rotate in the knot as more than it will twist your line. Obviously, if you reel it in super fast, you're going to get your line to spin. But if you're working it real slow and it's just kind of fluttering, you can get a lot more action out of your lure when you have a knot that allows your bait to swing a little more freely. All right, we're going to do 2 more knots, and now we're going to go over knots that are leader to main line. Okay, so because this white rope is a little bit thinner than this black rope, we're going to make this white rope our braided line. This is what is attached to your rod. This is your rod over here. This is your main line. This is your braid. This black line over here is your leader. So I like to tie a uni to uni knot. A lot of y'all watching this video know exactly how to tie this, but it's super simple, easy knot to tie, and extremely strong and reliable. So what you're going to do is you're going to put these 2 lines on top of each other. You're going to give yourself enough line to work with. You're going to have one going one way and one the other way. And with your fluorocarbon here, this black line, this is your leader, you're going to have these 2 stacked on top of each other, and you're going to make a loop right here with the black line, your fluorocarbon, and then you're going to wrap it around both lines. I only do it 4 times with fluorocarbon. I'm only going to do it twice because this line's super thick, but I do that step 4 times. And then you tighten it down a little bit to where it's not going to come unraveled, but don't pull on it super tight yet. Then you're going to do the same step over here with your braided line, but you're going to do it like 7 or 8 times. You can do 6 if it's heavy braid, but I usually do 7 to 8 wraps just to be sure because braid's so thin. So you're going to do the same thing. You're going to have both lines here. You're going to wrap your braided line around both, and you're going to go 1, 2, we're going to do 3 on this because I'm running out of space here. So we got 3 wraps on our braided side, and we got 2 wraps with our fluorocarbon knot. Like I said, obviously you do more than that with real line. But as you see, as you begin to tighten them down, they kind of take shape. It looks like a knot. And you don't want to tighten them down too prematurely. You want them to be kind of snug, but not super tight. Some guys that tie them leave them really loose until they tighten them down. But if you leave them really loose when they come together, sometimes your braid will get underneath your fluorocarbon if your fluorocarbon is not snug on the line. So I tighten it down to where it's getting snug and then just let the knot do the work after that. But all you're going to do is take these 2, and pull them together. And obviously you want to wet it because you don't want to burn your line again, but you want to tighten them down, and as they tighten, then I'll take each tag in and pull on it with my teeth. And it makes it really secure, and you have 2 knots going in opposite directions. So the tighter you pull them, as long as you tie it correctly, they're pulling against each other and there's nowhere for them to go. So that is the uni to uni knot. That's a very basic knot, and of course you can use the uni knot to, you know, tie your hook with. I just like the improved clinch knot because that's what I've always done, and I've never really had any issues with it, so I just stick to what I know how to do. That's why I use the improved clinch knot for tying my line directly to my hook. But you could also use the uni knot, which is the same thing, just one of those steps. You don't have to do it twice because you're not pulling 2 things together. This next knot is how I grew up tying leaders together. Okay, I will say this is not the safest, most secure knot. It will absolutely work. You can catch big fish on it, but this knot will fail 1000% if you reel your knot in and out of your guides a bunch of times. If you reel it up and then cast it out. Reel the knot in your guides, cast it out. You want to make sure you have a short enough leader to be able to cast without that knot going through your guides a bunch of times, or else it will fail. But this is an extremely easy knot to tie for beginners or people who are trying to tie really quick. You're in a time crunch and you got to get a leader on real quick. There's fish schooling in front of you. You don't have time to maybe tie a uni to uni. So what you do is you do the same step. You cross your lines together, okay? But what you're going to do is, I'm running out of white line, but we have enough to make it work. So you're going to cross your lines together, okay? Again, the white line's your braid, the black line's your fluorocarbon, and you got the end of your braided line here, and you got the end of your fluorocarbon not too far behind it. You don't want 20 feet of fluorocarbon when you're doing this. But what you're going to do is, you're going to take both and you're going to make a loop with both lines together. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take the both fluorocarbon and braided line and run them through 1, 2, and hopefully I have enough to do it 3 times. 3. You got it 3 times. You ran both your fluorocarbon and your braided line through, and you're going to tie it down, and there you go. You have a knot. And that looks kind of pretty because it's like alternating colors. But this is called the surgeon's knot. That's a 3-turn surgeon, or just a surgeon's knot. So we'll do it 6 times. We'll do it 4 times, but the knot will get really big on you. This is not a very streamlined knot. And whenever you trim it, you want to obviously, you know, trim your tag ends. But when you do it, you don't want to get like ultra close to where you could have any tag go into your knot. So you got your fluorocarbon here on this end now, and you got stuff strong, and my knife's dull. So here you go. Here would be your final knot. You got your braid right here, you got your fluorocarbon here, and then you would tie your lure to this end here. So there's your knot. That's the surgeon's knot. This is what my dad ties because I don't know why. He just trusts it, and it's caught a lot of fish, but I will say it's not as strong as the uni to uni. You have to worry about reeling it through your guides, like I said, and you also have to be, you know, you have to realize that it's a little bit bigger of a knot. Obviously, with this thick line here, you can't tell as much, but it is a little bit thicker of a knot. Alright guys, well I hope you found something helpful from that. I'm going to do a video coming up doing this with the FG knot, and I would have included in this video, but I wanted to do a video like all the knots you need to know on the water, because you don't have to know the FG knot. You can use the uni to uni and it'll do just fine. Now the FG is really strong and really thin. It's a great knot. I tie it whenever I'm like tarpon fishing or using really heavy braid and really heavy fluorocarbon offshore, or anytime I'm not going to be doing a lot of retying. But like in a tournament day, I'm not tying the FG knot if I'm just fishing redfish using a 2-foot leader and 10-pound line. I don't really trust it with really thin line. I've had it fail with like super thin braid like this right here. I've had some trouble with it there. But for like really heavy braid, 30, 40, 50-pound braid, the FG knot's hard to beat. So we'll do that one in the future. But I just want to do a quick video on the knots that I use or have used in the past, and stuff that you can take from this video out of the water and be a better fisherman. So thank y'all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed yet, hit subscribe. Thank you all for watching, and bye.